After over 20 years of us following the journey of Ash slash Satoshi, suddenly it was announced that this journey is coming to an end, which was a really big surprise in my opinion. I feel like this is one of those shows that a lot of us have been watching since our childhood, and we sort of assumed that it was going to continue for seemingly forever. It was part of our life, and it is just strange to even think about, okay, that it is going to probably end the season. This thought never really occurred to me. We all had seasons that we liked, seasons that we disliked. Did not really like Pokemon Journeys, for example. I didn't properly watch the latest season. But when I suddenly saw the announcement that this is going to end, I was really surprised and kind of emotional, because this is really a journey that has been following me since I can think, since I was a kid. Pokemon was always part of my life. Both the video game and the anime, and I mean also the card game, like all of Pokemon were something that I adored and that I always cherished. Seeing that this anime ended, it was a bit of a shock. However, I don't know if it was announced back then, but I feel like we all knew that this is surely not going to be the end of the anime. Surely there's going to be a different project, just without Ash. Ash is the main character that is in this position where he has to be a certain way for this anime to be able to keep continuing. So he cannot have too much of a character growth. With each new season, he does kind of regress in some ways. That's just how it has to be, because this is an anime where time doesn't really pass. All those jokes about Ash being 10 forever, and that's just how it has to be. This is how it has to be with these episodic, long-running shows. And so Ash was someone who was sometimes hard to grasp, because we didn't fully know, we never really got the feeling that he is progressing, that he's developing as a character. But he is still a really likable character, he is someone that I have followed for over 20 years, and so I did have like this connection with him. And then also the villains with Team Rocket, Jesse, James, and Meowth. It is this cast of characters that has followed us for so many years. So despite how we feel about certain aspects of them, it is still a change to suddenly accept that, okay, this is going to end, and there's probably going to be a new project in the future, but with different characters. That is what happened. Pokemon Horizons was announced. I was excited and worried at the same time. Excited because, okay, we are finally getting a fresh new anime project for Pokemon. Something that a lot of us has been wishing for years. For years I was kind of clamoring for, I wish we would get a different anime that would, for example, focus on the Pokemon Adventures manga. That would have been amazing. There's a lot to do with that manga. You could make a bit of a more mature Pokemon anime in a way that the original Pokemon doesn't allow, because obviously the audience for that is young kids. That didn't happen. We got Pokemon Horizons, a completely new project with new characters that we have never seen before, and that is exciting and worrying. Exciting again because new characters, new story, see what they have to offer to us. Worrying because what if it is just more Pokemon? What if it is the same thing again, just with different characters? So I think what this anime has to do is to prove to us, or explain to us, why we have to end the original anime. Why do this new project? What is the reason for that? And I don't think I can really answer this question even now, but what I can say is that the project managed to justify itself, because Pokemon Horizons is absolutely different from what Ash's journey were like, which is something I was worried about, and I'm very, very happy to see that they managed to give it something unique. And we have to start with the first character, Liko, who is our main character, our main girl, and she is a really interesting main character because she is very different from Ash. If we have to explain what Ash is like, he is someone who is very energetic and very brave. He's very carefree, believes in himself, and a lot of confidence in himself. And that is everything that is the opposite of what Liko is, especially at the beginning of the anime, but I'm going to get into that a bit more later. Liko is someone who is weirdly down to earth. She is shy, she has some insecurities, not a lot, but like, like a really healthy amount of like self-doubt, and it's a contrast to what Ash is like. I was not expecting that. I think that when I think about a Pokemon main character, I would have expected someone similar to what Ash is like, because that's also how our characters are in the video games, right? Obviously, the video games, it's more of a self-insert, the main character is us. But the way it is written, we are supposed to be a special kid. And Liko does not feel that way. Liko, to me, is surprisingly normal, surprisingly like a regular person. And I feel like this is kind of like a double-edged sword, because this has the danger of her being a almost boring character, especially for an anime like Pokemon, where you would expect more of a stronger personality for a main character. But the way that they managed to avoid making her too boring are in two ways. One, there is character development, which is something that isn't really a thing in the original Pokemon anime. And this is one thing that makes the anime so interesting, but I will get into that later when I talk about the story. And the second thing is that we have another main character in Roy. And Roy is more of that. Roy is kind of what you would expect a Pokemon protagonist to be like. Roy is that carefree character, that loud character, that energetic character. And I think that it is a really smart choice to have Roy as sort of the secondary main character. I do think that like the main focus is still on Liko. So having this kind of more calm character with this more energetic character creates a really nice contrast that didn't exist, for example, in Pokemon Journeys, where we had Go and Ash, who were both very similar in many ways. Here in Pokemon Horizons with Liko and Roy, we have more of a balance. But then they also add the third main character into the mix, which is Dot, a even more shy and even more insecure character who is a streamer. She is someone who doesn't really want to leave her room. And so we have three characters who are all very different from each other. And because of that, we have a nice balance in characters that we can care for, that we can see how they play off each other. It creates interesting dynamics, it creates interesting conversations, fun conversations. And so having these kind of three main characters allow for the anime to not have one individual character have to, shoulder all the responsibility of making this anime entertaining. But we have three characters who all manage to do their own thing, be interesting in their own ways, have flaws in their own ways, and that makes it interesting. Similar to Pokemon Sun and Moon, what this anime also does is have a large character cast. There's a large cast of different characters who are side characters, but side characters that get a lot of screen time, get a lot of time to establish relationships between these characters. Each of them gets their own backstory, their own episodes focused on them. And so we spend a lot of time with each character. We get to learn to love each character. I think that makes it an interesting ensemble cast for an anime like Pokemon, which isn't what we usually see. Obviously, we have like Team Rocket appearing over and over again, and then we have some other side character that would appear sometimes in the original Pokemon anime, but in this anime they all feel like they're one part of the anime. But then we also have the villains, and the villains are also interesting because there are different parties of villains, and villains that are different, right? Like I love Jesse, James, and Meowth, but Pokemon Horizons offers different kinds of villains that all have very unique personalities that we have seen in different anime, to be fair, but still just seeing them all here, they all feel distinct for a Pokemon anime. And I think that they are all villains that I love to see, like with Jesse, James, and Meowth, you knew the formula of the episode, right? Like they would come, they would try to steal Pikachu, they would fail. And that was kind of like a formula that was fun in its own way, but here we have villains that I don't really know what to expect. I don't really know what to predict. Obviously, it is still a children anime, so there's still some predictability to it. Obviously, you don't expect the villain to succeed immediately, but they are a danger to our main characters. I really feel like our main characters are in danger when the villains appear. I never felt like Ash would lose at any point against Team Rocket. But in this anime, in Pokemon Horizons, Liko and Roy are depicted as very inexperienced trainers because that's what they are. And I really find that refreshing. They are not very strong in Pokemon battles. They lose. They make mistakes. They feel like fresh new trainers. And I like that. I like seeing more experienced trainers being a threat. More experienced trainers being actually feeling like they are more experienced. And I think that is something that is unique to Pokemon Horizons. Biggest difference for the Pokemon Horizons anime is the story. Pokemon is usually an anime that is very episodic. Obviously, we have a goal. Ash tries to get all the gym badges and then wants to become a Pokemon master. So there is this story in the background, but most episodes are episodic. Most episodes are random in a way of different adventures and not particularly relevant for the overall plot. But with an anime like Pokemon Horizons, it feels a lot more focused. It feels like there is a true line, that there is a plot. Don't get me wrong, it is still an anime that has filler, quote unquote filler episodes that are episodic, that where it feels like, okay, there was just like a lighthearted random episode where there isn't any development, where there isn't necessarily anything important that happened. It is still Pokemon. It is still a really long running show. We don't really know how long this Pokemon Horizon anime is going to last, but it has already reached over 100 episodes and it will seemingly continue for a while. And so it is going to have episodes that are not relevant. It is still very much episodic at times. At the same time, Pokemon Horizons truly feels like it has a story unlike the original anime in a way that it really makes it feel like an anime. And by that I mean in its characters, for one. It has a lot of different characters, and characters do actually get development. They change. The characters change from episode 1 to episode 100. Most of the time when I'm watching Pokemon Horizon, and I'm about 50 episodes in at this point, I often do feel like the plot is being moved forward more often than not, even if it is at a snail pace, absolutely. But just having that at all is refreshing. It's so weird to have Pokemon anime where things move forward, where things actually change. I think most of the change with the original Pokemon anime was through the party getting new Pokemon. That is kind of like the only thing that would impact the progression. But in this anime, there's actually like a progression through characters, progression through story. The kind of like the events do move forward, and I love that. The way I talk, I almost sound like I don't like the original anime, which I want to make it clear. I love the original anime, right? It is absolutely a children's anime, but it is an anime that I always enjoyed watching throughout my entire life. With all its flaws, with all its strengths, I just enjoyed it. But when I heard that the original anime was going to end, I wish that the new project would justify itself. I wanted the new project to show me why this needed to happen. Why did we need to stop the anime with Ash? Why did we need to introduce new characters? Why did we need to start a new anime project? And Pokemon Horizons does that so well. Like, literally the first few episodes that I watched of the anime, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is different. This actually feels like this wouldn't happen in the original anime. Because of that, it is not necessarily better, it's not necessarily worse, it's different. It is a different approach at Pokemon, and I think for many people who did not like the original anime, this is worth giving a shot. Well, I think the Pokemon Horizons is also absolutely going to have people, complaining about it, and it's not going to be for everyone. It's absolutely not an anime where I'm like, I can just suggest to everyone and be sure that they are going to like it. It's not. It is still very much a children's anime. You do have to keep that in mind. It is a children's anime where I think it does have an appeal to an older audience. And I think the appeal does come through the fact that it is a story that is developing, that the characters are developing, even if it is slow. That it is there at all is something that is new to the Pokemon anime. And because of that, this is an anime that I'm really enjoying watching. And there are generally some truly standout episodes, in my opinion. There's one episode that is about Captain Pikachu's backstory, and I was like, whoa, I was really impressed with this episode. And those episodes were really were in the original, where I was genuinely like, holy moly, this was an amazing episode. But these type of episodes happen every now and then, and I'm like, okay, man, this anime is really doing something unique and different. And so I think that if you haven't given this a chance yet, give it a try and watch a few episodes and see how it feels like. I think that this is an anime that a lot of us didn't have a lot of expectations for. Surprisingly well made, and I am eager to continue watching it. Again, I'm like 50 episodes in so far. There are a bit over 100 out so far, so I still have a long way to go to catch up. But so far, I am enjoying it. So if you haven't watched it, give it a shot. I think it is worth a try, and maybe you'll be surprised. Thanks for watching. Until next time, bye.